I have a red flame top standard that's a patent pending, and then also a purple, a flame purple that is not patent pending. And I can't tell the difference between any of them.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Well, look, let's get right into this. Really exciting, cool show that's going to be going down on YouTube this week. If you're a fan of Eddie Van Halen guitars, or just guitars and the craft of guitars in general, I guarantee you're going to want to check out this conversation that's going down on my good buddy Rob Johnson's YouTube channel this week. Welcome to the show for the first time, the one, the only, Mr. Rob Johnson. What's going on?
Thanks, Jeremy, man. Appreciate you having me on. This is great.
I had to give you the classic intro, like all the other guests, you know?
Yeah, for sure, man.
My next guest needs no introduction.
Yeah, the guy that's probably spent more thousands of dollars over the course of the last 30 years on Eddie Van Halen guitars than anybody.
No, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, like, you and I have known each other for quite some time now, just like online and stuff like that. But this is the first time we're actually like talking, and I can finally say, you're a maniac, man.
Yeah, I know. It's been crazy. I tell you, I look back and I'm just like, wow, it's been so much fun, though. It really has. It's, building these things. And I've said it before on my show, it's the first guitar I ever got was a Fernandez Strat copy, and this is back in I got a late start on guitar playing. I didn't start till 95, 96.
So how old were you?
I was 23.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got kind of a late start, and I was a Van Halen fan since I was a little kid. I always wanted to play, and I was either doing martial arts or playing football or whatever, always wanted to play. And then finally in 96, I got that first guitar, and I started taking guitar lessons, and I was just like, hey, just teach me how to play Van Halen, man. I want to play and talk about love, I want to play whatever. And he's like, all right. So after a couple of months of taking lessons with the guy, he's like, we got to get you a guitar with a Floyd on it, man. You got to get something like Eddie had, like a Kramer and a Music Man.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Peavey Wolfgangs had come out. So I think I got a Kramer Pacer Deluxe. I found one at an old used shop. It's a cool guitar. And I picked up a patent pending black Peavey Wolfgang.
Nice.
And it was so cool. So, and that's it. Then I started striping pick guards, and I ran into Scott Smith and a bunch of other folks. And they're like, this is how you do it. And it was just like, it was it, like, man.
An obsession was born.
Totally.
Talk a little bit about that. So just for the casual consumer and fan that's listening here, I mean, like, for the Eddie Van Halen fanatics like us, when you make a reference to, a patent pending Peavey Wolfgang, talk a little bit about that and give me a little history as to what that means versus just a standard Peavey Wolfgang.
Yeah, so that's interesting. The Peavey Wolfgangs came out, when Ed was closing his deal with Music Man, end of 95-ish or whatever. 96, we started seeing Guitar World magazines with pictures of Ed with this black, guitar made by Peavey, and it looked kind of like a Music Man, but an arch top, and the toggle switch was on the top like a Les Paul. Headstock was a little bit different, 3x3, and it was so intriguing. And when they were first released, I want to say sometime in 97, I believe they released a black one, an ivory one, cream, whatever you want to call it, ivory. And I think they released I think it might have been a gold top, and possibly I don't remember if it was like a tobacco burst or whatever, but the black and the white ones were like the first ones to really come out. And I remember I went and bought it down in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. That's where I went to college, and there was a music store down there. And I said I got the first one that came in. It was a gloss black, and on the back of the headstock had this little patent pending. And really, they came out. They were called the Peavey Wolfgang Standard, as you know, and it was an arch top guitar. Two humbuckers, a tone knob, which was new for something that Eddie would have put out.
Yeah.
And the toggle switch was wired backwards because, as everybody knows, Eddie had to have it that way because when he was doing his tapping, he would always hit it. So he had it that way. But the patent pending stamp on the back was actually burned into the headstock along with Eddie's signature. I believe that lasted for through 97, and then the patent for that, I don't know if it was the headstock or if it was the actual design of the guitar. When it finally started taking off, they took away the patent pending, and it just had the serial number. So today, those patent pending guitars, especially with Eddie's passing and everything, they will draw a little bit more money. There's not really much of a difference, to my knowledge, between the patent pending ones versus the non-patent pending ones. I have to this day, I have a patent pending tobacco burst flame top, and I have a red flame top standard that's a patent pending, and then also a purple, a flame purple that is not patent pending. And I can't tell the difference between any of them. I think it was just a first run collector's type thing,
Right. And it's kind of like the 5150 amp where everybody wants the block letter one. Like, oh, that's the collectible one. Like,
Yeah. And it's funny, I'm sure you've talked to James Brown before, and I've had conversations with James.
No, I've actually never talked. I've been trying to get him. I've been trying to get Jim DeCole on the show, and like they keep giving me the runaround.
Yeah, well, I'm just stay on top of them because they should come on. That would be great. I know when I spoke to James, I asked him point blank. It was at NAMM in 2019. I'm like, hey, tell me what's the deal, man? Is the block letter head any different? And I don't know if there's some secret mojo that these guys don't want to really disclose or whatever, but he pretty much told me there's no difference. He said, a lot of people just think that it sounds different. They might have been using a different, maybe type of a wood or something. I don't know, but he pretty much alluded to me that there was no difference at all. But I mean, there might be a hidden secret in there. We'll never know.
And I mean, look, we've played the amps and we've played through them, different guitars. It's the same damn thing.
Seriously, yeah, seriously. They're great.
I think the rumor was that they had some type of lawsuit with electric. What is it? EV. Electro Voice, the microphone manufacturer, and they were trying to say, oh, well, people are going to be confused that this is like an EV product or something, and they had to change the block letter logo to the signature. Or then they were using Russian tubes versus Chinese tubes, and like that made a big difference. But
right, yeah, I don't have a 5150 100 watt head today. I have a 5152 120 watt head. And I'll tell you, that thing is just a beast. And to my ear, that amp sounds almost identical to the first one. Some people say it sounds different, but actually that's another question that I asked James, and it's been a long time since I've actually talked about this, and I might be a little bit rusty on it, but he pretty much said it's almost the same amp, just with another channel on it. Because as Ed said years ago, he said, I think somebody asked him a question, it might have been when he was in Boston at the Hard Rock Cafe with Gary during that Billboard release type thing, or actually it was an interview they did. And they said, what's the difference? And Ed said, it's a 2-channel amp for the 5150, just kicks ass. And in the Balance tour, if I remember, when Ed would play clean, like during Can't Stop Loving You, he had a whole stack of 5150 combos that he used for the clean sound, which I thought was pretty interesting.
A little funny tidbit about that Balance tour. If you remember, Brother Kane opened up a bunch of dates on that tour, and I had Damon Johnson on the show, and I asked him point blank, I'm like, did you get to play through Ed's rig? And he's like, not only did he get to play through it, he's like, give me a whole tour of it multiple times. And so he had his stack of 5152s or whatever, 5150s, but right at the bottom, he had his one of the original Marshalls, and he was like, hey, don't tell anybody, but that's the one I'm using.
That's freaking so cool. I wouldn't doubt it, man. Ed's said many times over the years, I always like to turn the corner on people when they're catching on to my thing,
Oh yeah, he was the biggest liar of all time.
Totally. And it's funny, I always get a kick out of, when people look at old interviews, no, it's not what Ed played, he said he didn't do this, and I always get a chuckle. It's just like, dude, like, he's not telling the truth in some cases. Yeah. And in other cases, he just forgot. I know a friend of mine said that, had a conversation with Ed, and, back in like, I don't know, some early 2000s, and Ed was like, I never had a Kramer neck on my Frankenstrat. And he was like, well, actually, you did. You had like 3 or 4 of them, Yeah. It's cool. But we're the geeks. we're the guys, you asked how I got into this. It's like, we're the ones that live in the past. We're the ones that focus on what did he do with this? What did he do with that? And on my show on Tuesday night, we're going to be geeking out on Floyd Roses and, Whale Tails and all that stuff. And, Ed, as everybody knows, was just always moving forward. He was always something new, something new, something new. And he wasn't looking back to, his gear like we did. He was always going forward. It's pretty cool. But
yeah.
Everybody, take a lot to heart with what he said, but I don't think he remembered a lot, rightfully so.
When I interviewed Wolfgang, I asked him about that when they were doing a different kind of truth. Because I'm friends with some guys that have worked on that record and stuff. And, somebody actually played me a mix of one of the songs with his original Marshall pen on one side and the 5153 on the other. And it was like one side was Van Halen 1 and the other side was, modern Ed. And I asked Wolf, I said, well, is there any truth to a whole album mix version of that? And he completely said no. He's like, my dad was really against going back and using that old stuff because, really, at the end of the day, he's selling a brand, right?
Right.
You're selling new amps. So like, why am I going to use the old one? Well, no, this is the best one I've ever had.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and he was so proud of his stuff too. I've never had a chance to talk to Wolf. It's interesting because Wolf was so important for bringing Ed back to, those old songs and like, hey, Dad, try this. Hey, try this. I know in 2015, Jeff Babbitt's had Ed's GL2T Steinberger guitar, and he had it on art, and there was some talk that, Ed was going to start ripping on that again. I don't know how that would have worked with the EVH deal.
I remember seeing a picture of that somewhere online, and yeah.
Ed said his exact quote was, people want to see me play that guitar again. And, I think a lot of that was around the time, when before Ed, got real bad, towards the end, and him and Sam were talking and they were looking at, doing the kitchen sink tour. I think that's when a lot of that stuff came out. And I know Wolfgang was on an interview I saw, and, he was showing the Frankenstrat, and he was that in 2015, they pulled it out, and we're checking things out. So it's pretty cool. I think Wolf was so important, reminding Ed about, hey, Dad, let's do this song, or let's play this song, or whatever. The set list was up to him. And I think that was kind of cool because I think Ed kind of got into it a little bit. I think he was excited, when the Stripe Series guitars came out. Just really cool.
Of course. And it would have been so cool if he just whipped out the 5150, at one of those shows, or just to piss off Dave, like, hey, I can still play this stuff. Yeah,
seriously. Yeah. I actually saw the 5150. I saw him play it live in 2004 when he had it on tour.
Oh, that's awesome.
The first leg of the 04 tour. That was kind of a rough tour for the band. But for the first, I think it was the first 20 or 25 shows, he had the original 5150, but he had a Charvel Strat neck on it.
Right.
And, by that time he had put the Peavey Wolfgang pickup in it. He'd taken out the original, which I believe went to Jim DeCola. And, it was really cool. So it had some alterations to it, but I was right up front row, and here I am looking at Ed playing a 5150. I'm like, holy crap. The only thing
you're like, that's the one. That's the guitar.
That's what got me into playing. So cool.
Man, me too. When I saw Live Without a Net, Ed playing that Kramer, I was just like, that is the coolest looking guitar. I didn't even know about the other ones. I saw the Frankenstein and the Jump video when I was first getting into music, but seeing that live video was like the first real awakening inside me about when it came to music. So talk a little bit about your collection. So when it comes to actually replicating Ed's guitars and the collection that you have, there's got to be a lot of trial and error and a lot of research that goes into it. Out of all the guitars that you've replicated of Ed's, which one was by far the most hardest and the biggest of a journey to get to?
As far as custom builds?
Yeah.
It's funny. I'll just answer that question quick, and then I'll give you a little history on it. I would say the most difficult replica that I've built of his guitars would be the Diver Down yellow double neck with the 12 string on the top and the on the bottom.
The Secrets guitar, is that what they
guitar? Yeah. He played Cathedral on it, and then went right into Secrets, and that was definitely one that I never really thought that I would have, and I guess I would say the purple double neck Ernie Ball Music Man with a baritone neck on the top.
Oh yeah.
And on the 6 string on the bottom. That was another one that was more recent, but all those are just custom builds. And it's funny, I was talking to a couple friends, that have been doing this for many, many, many years. You would know who they are, Jeremy. But we were talking, remember when we first started doing this stuff, like back in the mid 90s, like, it's like they didn't even have it. You couldn't get maple necks with hockey stick headstocks. You just couldn't even, they didn't have them. And if you found one, it was like finding a live dinosaur. And, so you saw these 5150 copies with rosewood necks on them, which was cool. And then as time was going on, years are going on, we're getting more and more specs. And then the internet really started hitting hard. So we're not necessarily just going off of circus magazines and Hit Parader mags and Guitar World. We're seeing like different angles. I would say when the game, there was two big game changers. I mean, there's way more than that, and I don't want to not give credit to folks, but I'm just going to throw a couple of them out there, and if I miss anybody, I apologize. But I would say the two big game changers were when Musicraft came out and lock guitars came out. You had others in there like Dive Bomb. You had K&E and there's just so many. When those companies started really honing in on the specs of Ed's guitars, the type of woods, the actual the bodies and the necks and what kind of frets they were and headstock shapes, and we started getting our hands on custom Poplar Strat Pacer style bodies and Kramer necks, with non-tilt hockey stick headstocks. When that stuff started coming out, it was a game changer. And with all the pictures and everything on the internet, with us looking at how the stripe patterns and we got to get this overspray here and this here, and we were putting the right hardware in the guitars. But the second game changer was when folks like who I'm interviewing tomorrow night, Period Correct Guitar Parts, Michael McGuire, just comes out. And there was another guy too, Jim Francis, and I want to not give Jim any credit. He did the same thing. These guys started making custom Floyd Rose FRT 5, FRT 1, 3, 4 exact replicas of the Floyd Rose from those days with the big steel blocks and minus the springs under the the saddle screws. The saddles were the right size. I mean, everything was right on the money. The fine tuners and the actual base of the Floyd, it was spaced. I mean, it was just incredible. That's when things were like the game jumped up more. And it's like if you could do one of those things, now you're coming to where these replicas are becoming so close it's almost impossible to tell. Then you take guys like Chris Hubbard and Matthew Anthony and all these other folks, and you put them in the mix for the painting. And that's when I was just like, all right, I'm going to get all the parts and I'm going to let you guys do the painting because you're blowing it out of the water,
Yeah. It's like going to Gordon Ramsay saying, I'll buy the ingredients, you do the cooking.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's been so much fun though. I'll tell you, I love building these things. There's so many guitars that I never thought I'd have, like the Dragon Snake.
Yeah.
That was one that another custom build, like I never would have thought I would have had. I mean, who could have built something like that back in those days,
No, it's unbelievable. And you go and you really look at different options that you can go and, buy guitar bodies or necks or parts, even just like the Floyds that you talked about. I mean, it's such a niche little thing. And if you want to have an accurate replica, and if you're a nerd and a freak like us, you're going to want that specific Floyd for that guitar.
Yeah. And that's how I am, and it's like there's some guitars of mine that have a couple of differences, like that big yellow double neck. Ed's actually had a Rockinger on it. And there's actually two Rockingers. And you get guys like Donnie Ward who are like, actually, it wasn't a Schaller Badass, it was a Rockinger. I reached out and talked to them. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool, and borrowed the leaf again. And, I have a guitar, a Kramer with a Rockinger on it, but I wasn't able to find one for that build. So I picked something that looked like it, worked, and so there's little things still, but it's funny as time goes on, and I think my number is, I'm at 54 guitars right now, and there's only maybe a few of them that aren't Eddie Van Halen style. I still see things like, oh, that's a different knob that I thought it had. That didn't have that one. Got to get that. It's become fun. It's just a good time. And so many people take it so seriously and personally, and they get mad at each other and they're slamming each other on shows. And I'm like, guys, this is just like fun. We're just having a good time, but it's just been such a good time, and you meet so many awesome people along the way, like yourself. I'm just it's so much fun, being on your show, Jeremy. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
and talking about this stuff.
It's about the community, right? It's about having fun and sharing our love and passion for the same thing. It's like we could be car guys, or we could be fucking,
Yeah.
foodies or some shit. We're Eddie Van Halen guitar guys.
I know it's funny. I had a friend of mine tell me back when I want to say it was 2018 or 19, when I had started doing my own show, and a lot of my guitars were getting out online and getting noticed and whatever, and my collection was really building. I think one of the biggest honors I ever had was my friend told me, he said I talked to Matty, Ed's assistant, and he showed Ed some pictures of actually my collection that were online. And Ed goes, "Wow, that's pretty cool." And it wasn't a look at this idiot who's got nothing better to do. Get a life, dude, but it was actually, hey, that's pretty cool, that somebody would actually take that kind of time. And Ed knew that there were guys like us out there, but
yeah, he had restraining orders on every one of us.
I remember the whole copyright thing, when people were trying to sell these on eBay and you get shut down with attorneys. And I get it, I'm not into the selling piece. I'm just into the collecting piece. I mean, if, I don't know. I think there's probably the day will come one day when I'll probably give a lot of these away just because, they're taking up so much room. But
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Talk a little bit about this. So I was just looking at prices recently from EVH gear. I mean, with inflation and everything, I mean, like, for example, an EVH Star Series, like a Frankenstein, the Relic made in Mexico version, it's like $3,000 Canadian now.
I know.
I was at Guitar Center in Scottsdale last week. There was 3 used ones for like $1,300 US, and then they had a new one that was $2,000. If somebody wanted to go and actually make a genuine, true blue replica, homemade, get all parts from all the guys in the paint and everything, how much is it going to run somebody to do it at home these days?
That's a great question. And I get that question a lot. And I'll be very careful how I answer it because I don't want to, try to undermine or.
He's going to lowball everybody.
Yeah, I know the EVH line, because they are truly awesome guitars.
Yeah.
I think, for the folks that want to have an Eddie Van Halen guitar, that want to have an Eddie Van Halen replica, that maybe only have, 2 or 3 of those types of guitars. And I want to have a Frankenstein, I want to have a 5150, or I want to have this, the Shark or whatever, I think the EVH line it's perfect for the wide range of people that want to have Eddie Van Halen guitars. Those are more of a tribute to those guitars, and that's not a bad thing. They just, they have the truss rod adjustment in the necks, and they have all the updated stuff, which is what any normal person would want. But then you take us geeks that are like, hey, that's really cool, I love that, but I want to build it exactly like what Ed's was. I want to have that swamp ash body. I want to have the route just like this. I want to have that aged, a jack plate. I want to have this exact pickup with the legs bent. I want to have, I want to use this exact thing. This neck's got to be like, I don't want the truss rod adjustment there because Ed's didn't have that back in, 82, whatever.
Yeah.
I want to have that whale tail Floyd. If it's funny, you kind of priced out what the EVH line would be. If somebody was to start from scratch, and I do coach a lot of people on this, and I point them in the right directions because I want to give them, my friends, I want to up their business obviously too. If somebody was to buy a body, say they're going to build a Frankenstrat, and they're going to buy the exact body, the exact neck, whether you get it from Musicraft or you get it from Lock or whatever, anybody else, then you're looking at a paint job. Then, now you're looking at the hardware. Now you're looking at tuners. You want to get the crown heads or whatever version you want. String retainers. What pickup do you want? Are we going to get that, that little, the toggle switch mess in the middle cavity? We got to have all the little wires all turned the right way, okay, we're going to go to period correct guitar parts because they have that. I would say if somebody was going to do one from scratch, the paint job is what's really taking the most time. That's the most artistic piece of it. And to do a Frankenstrat paint job, I mean, I've seen guys charge $500 and I've seen guys charge 2,000, um, and there's not really a right or wrong, but if on an average, I think you could probably come in around the same, if not a little bit less, to build your own and have it almost exact. Versus, just go buy one off the rack. And there's no such thing as this one's better or this one's better. They're both amazing. It's just how exact do you want to be, I've played all the EVH guitars. I mean, they're absolutely amazing. But in today's world, if you really want to have exactly what Ed has or had, that the parts are there, and there's people out there that can find it. I mean, everything is just like right there at your fingertips, but it's all in what you want. I mean, there's a group of us that go to EVH Con each year, hosted by Uma,
Steve Nowicki has been trying to get me to go for the last 2 years, and I'm like, it always happens when I'm out of town or I'm traveling or like something else. But this year, I got to try and make it.
Yeah, Steve's great. He actually came to my house back. He's been there a couple times. He's actually at my wedding back in October.
Yeah,
and he comes out and he's just down in my guitar room and he's looking around. He's like, "Whoa, this is so cool," And Steve's just such a great builder too.
Yeah.
So he's telling me stuff that I didn't even know. I'm like, "Whoa, I got to do that,"
Yeah,
And
I was down at his place. She's like last November or something like that, and like we're just like showing me his 5150, and I'm like, dude, it's like as if you're holding the real thing. It's like a mind fuck.
It's totally sick. It's crazy. And his 1984 is amazing. His Hot for Teacher is great. And that's what I say, it's like I used to paint these things myself and I can, but the detail that these guys put into this stuff, it's just mind blowing. And like, I don't know. I mean, I guess, I joke with people like I don't have the patience to do that anymore.
No, me neither. I'm so not.
I'd rather pay someone to do it,
I built my first Frankenstein when I was like 15 and is still in high school, and I got the body and everything, and I did like everything. It was like I went all out on this thing, and I was on
show, I think,
I was on home stretch, and I was soldering the pot to the pickup, and I burnt myself. And in just sheer rage, I fucking whipped the thing right across my garage. Like, it had a big crack through the body. The neck shattered. The headstock was ruined. And it was the most beautiful, like, bird's eye maple neck, too, that I got for this thing. And it was just ruined. Yeah, it was just, But you know what? The funny thing is that the crack in the body, like, it actually still held together. And like, it sounded amazing even after.
Yeah. Yeah, what's funny, you look at Ed's 5150 and the Frankenstrat, and you can see where the posts are, the Floyd post. There's cracks.
Oh yeah,
going, to the pickup. I mean, the wood was split, and the things still play. And that's the kind of detail these guys get down to today. Like, you get guys building, the hockey stick headstocks, and they're starting with a Strat neck, and then they cut the ball off, make it a Kramer, as Paul Unkert would call it, chicken hawk neck, whatever, and then they're cutting the pieces off and putting on Ed's, or his buddy's bed frame or whatever it was, and doweling the holes. It's just crazy. It's like nobody was doing that years ago. And now you can literally go online and just pick it out, 1, 2, 3. And then, hey, I want you to paint it, or whatever. I want you to paint it, and you get yourself a guitar that is literally, I mean, it's it's a clone of what the real one is if you really want to spend the time, because I mean, you're getting every single piece. The hardware is the same. I mean, everything. But again, as Ed always says, I mean, it's fun to do that, but I mean, nobody's going to sound like Ed when he played. It was in fingers,
Yeah, you can buy all the gear you want, but if you don't know how to make it talk, what's the point?
Yeah.
As Ed would say.
Yeah.
One last question before we get out of here, because Rob's got this amazing show that's going to be happening on his YouTube channel. You're going to have to go and check it out. And if you're not going to watch it live, well, it's going to be available on demand, obviously, on his channel. What's the channel, by the way? What's the address?
The channel is Rob5150 EVH. That's my YouTube channel.
Easy.
Unfortunately, I don't I don't have the technological skill to have all the intros and all the stuff edited.
Oh, no. Nobody cares about that anyway.
We just dig right into the nitty gritty, fun stuff. But
nice.
Yeah, that's going to be tomorrow night, Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to have Michael McGuire on. We're going to have Dimitri and Donnie Ward, and
Nice.
we'll have a good time. We're gonna have a lot of fun, and we're gonna geek out talking about Ed's guitars. We're gonna talk about FRT ones and threes and fours and fives and Whale
Yeah.
Tail, Hernandez, and all the
And the
crazy.
cool thing about all those guys is that if you want to get your own replica made, I mean, these are the guys you're going to go to for the parts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's really some cool stuff, especially with a lot of the 3D printers now. I mean, I've been looking for a nasty cordless unit, to go with my 5150 strap for freaking ever, and just can't find them. And I'm talking to Mike, and he's like, I'm working on one right now. I'm working on a project now, so we're gonna have it may not work, but they sucked anyways. Nobody wants them to work.
I gotta say, it would be really, really big money. My guitar tech Victor and I were talking about this the other night because I'm having problems with one of my Jackson PC ones, the sustainer in it. And I was like, if somebody could literally go and replicate the circuit board and everything of the Jackson sustainer system, they would make so much bank because you can get a replacement. Jackson, you called them, they didn't give you the time of day. Like that's something these guys need to look into, like replicating that.
One last thing too is that question comes up. It's totally agree, Jeremy. The question comes up. I just got it the other day. Why doesn't Floyd Rose do that and make these reissues like they did with the B, guitar? They made that FRT one and it's funny. I talked to a couple of folks from Floyd Rose a few years ago. One of them being Andy Papiccio, and I asked, like, why don't you guys do that? You guys make a fortune. It's like, go back to the old Whale Tail and you get the old drafts and the spec. And the answer was pretty plain, and it makes a lot of sense. They said, it would be it would be so much fun, and it would be a lot of work, and we'll do them on special circumstances, like for the B, or when EVH wants to make an exact copy. But for us to just re-release that, he said, we would be re-releasing those to such a small group of people out there, the small, which seems like a lot, but overall it wouldn't really be, this is what they said, it wouldn't really be what most people would want. Yeah. And I get that,
the casual consumer wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. It's
exactly. And they're not going to spend, $800 on a Floyd Rose, that has like, early 80s milling marks in it and everything,
we would.
I know. It's so true, but that's why it's just great to have the resources we have, because we're able to collect these things and play these things, and they freaking rip. They work.
Yeah,
they're awesome. They're the real deal.
No, totally. One last thing before we go. Has it been confirmed what type of wood Ed you had on his original Kramer 5150?
Basswood.
Is it basswood?
Man, I'm going with basswood, and the only reason I say that is no, I have not. I have not done the studies on it, but I know two people very well, and you know them too, that have played the 5150 and have handled it for many, many years, and swear that it is basswood. And there's a 5150 Facebook page out there too, and there's a bunch of guys. We all go back and forth. And years ago, we thought it was poplar. Then it was basswood. Then all of a sudden it's ash, and then it's basswood again. Back, I mean, who knows? It could be plywood for all we really know. But I'm sticking with basswood just because of the folks that I've known for so long, have basically just said, yeah, it's basswood. And the only thing I would add to that, Jeremy, is if you really look at it, and maybe this is just my brain working in a different direction, Ed was experimenting with basswood at that time, because what was the Music Man? He went from Music Man to a basswood body with a maple cap on it. He liked the sound basswood.
And everybody talks about how it's a light piece of wood. It's also dirt cheap as well. So it's like maybe they were just pushing it because it was cheap to make and they'd make more profit off it. But I think he actually genuinely liked the sound of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that debate is going to go back and forth, and people literally fight over it. It's crazy, But I also heard that Alan Holdsworth was one of the folks that not introduced, but that, Ed was checking out one of his strats, and he just fell in love with basswood. And that's when, when the whole Kramer thing started to happen. And, I mean, Ed played, a lot of the Kramers, they were poplar, and, there was different types, they were doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, Ed even played mahogany. I mean, we were pretty sure that the Rude the Unchained circles with the Rasta. We're pretty sure that those might have been mahogany, from what I heard. He was trying all different things, but I really think he had a thing for basswood.
Yeah.
That's just what I think, but I cannot confirm that.
Well, you're going to be able to dive into all of this and then some. This big show he's got planned. Rob Johnson, go and check out his YouTube channel. He's got Donnie Ward. He's got a whole bunch of other great guys that are going to help you build your very own EVH replica, whatever the heck you want. It's going to be a deep dive. It's going to be a dive bomb into tone madness tomorrow on Rob Johnson's YouTube channel. Go and check it out. Rob, this is absolutely awesome, man. I'll have to come back on the show and we'll do this again. We'll geek out and nerd out some more.
You got it, Jeremy. Thank you so much. And if you're ever up in my neck of the woods in the Massachusetts area, you got an open invitation to stop by and check it out, hang out and jam on the wet, dry, wet rig. And I love the videos you do on that. You're more than welcome anytime to come out and check everything out.
Yeah, I got to get down there and just come hang out for a weekend or something.
Seriously, bring the wiki with you, we'll get a bunch of the guys together, and we'll just geek out and have a good time,
Yeah, it'll be the Rob Johnson, Jeremy White EVH Conclave.
That's right, man.
The EVH retreat. It'll be like rehab, but for EVH nerds.
Exactly. Therapy, EVH therapy,
I bet we could expense that somehow.
Yeah, we're taking a mental health day.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. All right, brother. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Jeremy. I really appreciate it, buddy.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.